Us to talk about fear, Gregory Taylor. And I think that Mr. Taylor has been Gregory Taylor with us each time that we've had this show. But now I think he has some additional information to add, which might constitute part of the title of this chapter today, something that has to do with fear. Is that
Yes.
Right, Gregory?
That's exactly
Well,
right.
why don't you talk
Okay.
to us from that perspective?
Sure. And Dr. Haney, the reason I've started to use the name Taylor Gregory, Gregory Taylor in Alabama and in my family, they learned to use sounds. They hardly ever pronounce the name Gregory correct. They used the second G was always sounded like a K. Greg, 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 and all of this was designed to strike fear or to control you, this type of thing. And so after studying it and hearing these different sounds in their voice, it taught me to learn to interpret their sounds, forced me to try to learn to outthink them, these type of things like that, or to think ahead. And so when I say Taylor Gregory, it's a different spin on it. I'm leaving the Gregory, sort of putting it last to explain it later. But it's also connected to this subject today, having grown up on a diet of duress, a duress diet. And it's like all of the sounds that you've heard of your life coming from the women in my family, it has taught me how to make the distinction in the sounds of voice. And the Bible tells you in 1 Corinthians 14, chapter 6, 7 and 8 verse, that things that are dead can give sound. But how can you make a distinction between the sounds? Also, in customer service in America today, and I have to be honest here, I'm not comfortable in getting an African-American woman in customer service. Because when you get them, you hear their interpersonal communication skills at home, or because you are a person of color, you have to deal with their sounds. And I respond to sound, not words. And to get my mother's attention, when I discovered the word duress, I sued her and charged her with duress. But the purpose of it was, this was the only way that I was able to get her attention. And I had heard her come home from court, and her girls would discuss how she had manipulated the judge and different things of that nature. So today, one of the delights of my life today is to hear the voice of the new Attorney General. Her voice is so clear. To me, it has put all the other American African women voices on trial because there's so much manipulation in the voice. And I did a study on the telephone, and I thought Booker T. Washington had the first telephone in Alabama, but I discovered it was the Dinkins family in Selma, and they helped to form the Alabama government. Most of them went to Oberlin College. And saying that point to make this point, our telephones, I believe, were more used for deceptive purposes instead of just straightforward business. And then if the Dinkins were the first to have a telephone, who were they talking to? Who wouldn't know they African American, They were talking to the people who they had been educated to help the American government, to community, to make life better, or to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, and those type of things. And so I have gone through so many experiences, and I'm very serious about the customer service. Good customer service is America's future. And it was the CEO of Coca-Cola, I think it's the CEO Roberto Gazetta, who said that good customer service is America's future, and we must do everything as if America's future depend on it, because it really does, and God's in the detail. And I can't ever say this anymore. I have a sister here who's in the apartment business for 30-something years, and she recently met the lady who's apartment manager where I live. I saw something in both of them that caused me to take her off of my emergency contact list. In the emergency room, my medical doctor, as well as my hospital. And so all of these things that's going on there, their voices can be both causing and accusing. They ask and answer. And two Caucasian females shared with me that some American African women, they speak with a double negative and a false resonance. And see,
Now, what do you mean when they say they speak with a double negative and a false resonance?
I have the layman terms that I use for that, that they explain and complain in the same voice. Yeah, and it creates problems in customer service, or they get to the phone, they say something like, this is your second or third call. If they had been talking right from the first time, you wouldn't have had to call back, It's just a game, and it's something that has been going on, and it's a reflection. But the Attorney General's voice, the U.S. Attorney General, never have there been an American African woman in that position who have that kind of authority and the time to think about what she say. And I see it because her voice is just a blessing to me to hear, but it has put the other American African women voices on trial over all the things that they have done over the years to manipulate, to control the men, and to achieve different things that they've done. It's all on trial. And I'm anticipating by this time next year, maybe sooner, the American African woman will be the most depressed person in America because she has got to deal with all the ways that she's learned to use her voice. And the mothers even teach them. And on February the 10th, after the Ferguson verdict went down, I contacted Social Security and told them to scratch my African ancestry. I'm just going with the Choctaw and the Blackfoot. And I'm serious because I understand the emotions of the 60s. There was a nun, 90-something-year-old nun here, who confirmed for me that the emotions of the 60s have turned into a virus, and it is affecting people's ability to explain what it is that is affecting them. Some have what I call, they're living and alive, and they are actually afraid to be. And they may even consider themselves as being suicidal or something of that nature. But it is imperative, you know, that these things be brought attention to. I took a conflict resolution class at Vanderbilt. Dr. Tom, I think he's pastor of the West End Church. He talked about battle messages and learned conversations. And living in the MDH housing as I do, I can't see why they don't start teaching, requiring